Good morning and welcome again to the Carolina CRE podcast. I am Forth Hefner, your host. I'm here with Chris Johnson, Economic Development, Johnston County. I want to read a little bit about Chris, tell you a little bit more about him. You probably already know a lot more than you think you do. But Chris is one of the most respected economic developers in North Carolina, and he's known for blending data with relationships. Since becoming Johnston County's Economic Development Director in 2013, he has helped recruit or expand companies including Novo Nordisk, Grifols, I hope I got that right, Amazon, Berry Global, and Ashley Furniture. He's been recognized multiple times on Business North Carolina's Power List and was named one of the Consultant Connect's top 50 economic developers in North America. Before countywide economic development, he spent 14 years leading downtown revitalization in Smithfield. Personally, he's an ECU alum. Grew up working his family's tobacco farm. I want to hear about that. Has owned Jules Formals with his wife Kim for more than 30 years. Is an avid road cyclist and a huge fan of classic R&B. He's seen Earth, Wind, and Fire more than 20 times. Let's just start there, Chris. Why don't you just tell me about Earth, Wind, and Fire?
That's a
and your
deep
passion?
track right there. No, it's just a band that's back in the 70s, earlier than that, my father was a football coach. So I was kind of a gym rat or a locker room rat for whatever you want to say. And being blessed to grow up in the rural Eastern North Carolina area, it was heavily minority. And so a lot of my friends, I just kind of gravitated to their music. And being, again, a gym rat or a locker room rat during the 70s, a lot of my father's players, that was the music that they listened to when I was 10, 11 years old. And just Earth, Wind, and Fire, I just connected with them and just have loved them ever since I heard the Gratitude album, which is the Earth, Wind, and Fire's live album. I can still hear that intro right now. So it's just, I've seen them a lot. And unfortunately, I've paid a lot to go see them and travel around to see them and meet and greets and stuff like that. So I'm always a Earth, Wind, and Fire fan.
Yeah, music's such a weird thing because I recorded a podcast yesterday with a guy in Winston. It'll come out in a little while, but he's got a Widespread Panic and a fish poster in the background on his office wall. And I'm thinking I would have never pegged this guy as a Widespread and Fish guy, but like music's just this thing that everybody's got their style or whatever. And it takes them back to a special place. And it's, a lot of times it's not what you would expect for that person to be a big fan of.
Yeah, well, my father, again, growing up as a son of a football coach, he enjoyed the old R&B stuff. I mean, Clarence Carter. Can just go through a list of old school R&B bands and artists, and he loved that music, and it just kind of it's in my DNA. So
Yeah. No, I think that's great. That's great. So, I mentioned Chris and his wife own the store there in, is it Smithfield? Is it
it is.
in downtown? I got the pleasure of meeting Kim in Las Vegas a couple months ago, and wonderful family learned about you guys. But Chris, every time I open up the TBJ, I'm hearing something about Johnson County. So tell us what's going on there and why it's so hot right now.
Sure thing. Well, I mean, obviously we are part of the Raleigh MSA, and our numbers reflect the percentage growth that obviously Raleigh and the Triangle has seen. Um, we're very fortunate that we're probably one of the better connected communities and counties in the Triangle region to Raleigh, and that goes back to when I-40 first opened up in the early 90s. And so with that, we've become kind of a bedroom community to Raleigh. And our labor shed reflects that, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about that in moving forward in this interview. But when I moved here in 1990, our population was probably around 80,000. Today, we're closing into 280,000. We're adding between 8,000 residents a year, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon.
That's amazing. What's caused the growth? I mean, just is it just Raleigh growth or is it?
Raleigh growth, I'd love to say that if it's because of the activity of this office, but as Raleigh grows, so does Johnston County, and the spillover effect there. We're very blessed with our wonderful transportation connectivity. We've got I-95 that runs north and south, but then we've got 40 that runs east and west, and also the transition of US 70 to I-42 is adding to that spillover growth of east of I-95. So we're one of the few counties that have three interstates that kind of dissect our communities, and so uh, residential growth is obviously driving that. But then, it's my role is to create those jobs here in Johnston County, and it plays back into my Main Street days of live, work, play. Livability, quality of life, quality of community. I heard consultant use that a while back, and so my role is is to for individuals, our young people that are growing up through our school systems, that they don't have to necessarily leave Johnston County to go to work. And so it's providing those quality of jobs that we're looking for, as well as looking after our existing industries and businesses that already call Johnston County home.
Yeah, no, I love that. I grew up here in the Pinehurst area where I live now, and I made a post the other day about, this is such a great place to live, but it's really hard to attract talented people here from the cities because they just can't imagine not having the accessibility and things like that. So it's neat to hear you say that about uh, Johnson County. So, all right, so you guys have attracted some really great industries, companies that have made really significant investments in that area. Kind of how does the sausage get made on that, Chris? How do you attract them? How do you make Johnston County, win there?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, we're a very lean organization. We don't have a lot of staff here. It's just myself and my assistant. But I really am a big player in forming allies. I don't need a staff of 20, in my opinion, to be successful, or 10, or whatever that is. I call on my chambers of commerce as allies. I call on the school system as my allies. But my number one ally would be the community college, and along with the governmental services of county commissioners and city council members and things of that nature. And so that is probably my key ally. And the success that we've had here in Johnston County, I can trace back to the public-private partnerships that we've made with our existing industries, our companies that already call Johnston County home, but then also calling on our community college as a support. Um, Two things that I can trace back. The very first one is the establishment of the Workforce Development Center that has a biotechnology focus over in the town of Clayton. And because of the investment that we've made over 20 years ago, and a facility that cost $4 million at the time, which was a large amount of money. I mean, it's still $4 million is still a large amount of money, but when you compare it to the investments that our life science companies have made, we're in now over $10 billion, and thousands upon thousands of jobs. So the return on investment of building that facility has parlayed into obviously great success for Johnston County, and it's been emulated through across the state. We were one of the first ones that have a biotechnology focused workforce development center. And so we've duplicated that just recently in the town of Four Oaks with an advanced manufacturing facility that focuses on, the advanced manufacturing, the trades and industry type stuff, welding, metalworking, machining, things in that space. And we just recently, well, this time last year, we opened up a 70,000 square foot advanced manufacturing space. And within 2 months of that, um, we were fortunate to be able to announce the Vulcan Elements Project, which is a $1 billion investment with 1,000 jobs along the I-95 corridor. So, we feel like the investment in an education system is the secret sauce to the success and something we're very proud of. Again, going back and showing our young people that they can get a college or get a high school degree, immediately go into the county and to our community college system and come out with a certificate, whether it's a 1 year or 2 year certificate, and come out making 80, $90,000 a year. That's a game changer for particularly a low wealth community, some of our low wealth communities that we have in the county. So that's something that I'm proud of to be able to change generationally because of that ability. And, uh, and I can go on and on about how does that, if you talk to Dr. Vern Lindquist about, and anybody with the community college, our community college is probably the fastest growing community college, not only in North Carolina, but in the US.
Wow.
And that translates, or that goes back to our county commissioners, and what they have is what they refer to as the commissioner's promise. So any high school student that graduates from any of our high school here in the county can immediately go into our community college system and be debt free. That their tuition is paid for. Now
Wow.
that's after that's after any Pell Grants or any other scholarships that may be out there, but that means any high school student that can go immediately into JCC debt free. And so, as we all know, and we see in the national news and stuff, college debt, college tuition has just been skyrocketed. And so, if we can show kids again, grabbing them at the high school level or beyond, or before rather, and saying this is a path forward, it's really attractive. Not only to the students, but obviously any parent that may have a student there. So that's
Yeah,
that's that's the sauce. That's the secret sauce.
yeah, and that's really neat too. And then just even beyond that, so my wife and I have a house in the Boone Blowing Rock area. Our old neighbor up there, she's the I think she's a provost of admissions at NC State now or something. But I learned from her a couple of years ago that most of the 4 year institutions in North Carolina, public, if you graduate from North Carolina Community College with an associate's degree, you have automatic admission. Excuse me. And that may not go for all the schools, but I know it does for App State, ECU, and I'm pretty sure NC State. And so,
Yeah.
that's just like, to be able to go from there to there or have the opportunity and do that debt free from day one, that's pretty exceptional.
Yeah, the college system, and I'm familiar with the ECU because I was on the board of visitors. I know that a lot of the colleges are partnering with our community college system as a developing a pipeline for their students, transitioning in and making sure that the classes that they are taking are in alignment with what the colleges can offer. With the associate degree and going beyond with the bachelor's degree. So it's pretty exciting. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, and this is, I talk about allies, and this really kind of stems from all of our chambers of commerce, is what they refer to as JOCO Works. And that was something that was started before COVID. We had a little dip. Obviously, we couldn't get people together during the COVID period, but it's starting to ramp back out. But we had a highly successful. We've had a highly successful JOCO Works that was started a year or two before COVID, where we have every eighth grader come onto the campus of JCC, and all of our existing industries come on to the campus, and as well as our municipalities, or whether it's EMS or fire or police or whatever. And it's what they refer to as a jobs fair on steroids, but really
Hmm.
directed toward eighth graders. And the reason that we focus on eighth graders is that we understand that as they're transitioning into the high school curriculum, they have to start planning the tracks that they see and they want to go in. Well, as I did probably in the eighth grade going into the ninth grade, I had no clue about what I wanted to do. And so you kind of tend to gravitate to what your friends are doing, and you have no idea of what is exciting or what opportunities that are out there. And so with the companies coming online or out there and exposing them to, here's what we do at Gruffles, or here's what we do at Novo, or here's what we do at Caterpillar, and then here's what we're going to be doing at Vulcan. It a lot of the kids and a lot of adults drive past these facilities that really don't understand what goes on
Yeah.
inside. And they see these big facilities and they see the cars in front, but they have no clue. And so we're exposing them to opportunities and then showing them, working with our CTE programs at the high school level and at school system, career technical education, and then also with our community colleges, is exposing them to pathways forward and saying, look, you don't have to, and then nothing wrong with a 4-year degree. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong there,
Yep.
but not every kid is cracked up to attend a 4-year institution. And some of the families, some kids come from broken homes. Some kids, they're first generation residents here in the U.S., and high school attainment is probably the pinnacle of their educational. And so we're trying to implement and expose kids to opportunity. So burdened with debt with the school system and or the college system. And then one of the exciting things is our school system is listening to our existing industries and working with our community college of implementing these programs at the high school level. So why do we need to wait till they graduate high school to then go into a community college to get a bioworks certificate, just for example? And so we're implementing these programs now in the high school level. So they are coming out with the ability to immediately go over to our life science companies. And that's just not in Johnston County. That's any of our life science companies, whether it's, Fuji or Secura or Amgen or in Wake County or Johnson and Johnson or Fresenius Copy or Thermo Fisher and Pitt or Wilson. These kids come out with a marketable certificate that they can then start picking where they want to live and work. And obviously, we want to make sure that the companies here in Johnston County get first crack at them. But they come out pretty much being able to write their own ticket, and so that's something that I did not have the opportunity, or kids that I graduated with in the '80s or '90s, and so it's exciting times. And so I think we've got a bright future here, not only in Johnston County, but the Triangle region.
That's really neat. So first of all, I know that you know Wilson because you put a T in there. That's how you know if
Yeah.
somebody's, posing or not. There's that silent T or whatever. You may not know what I do, but I coach executive teams, and one of the tools we use is a tool called the 5 whys. So a lot of times people are, when they're solving a problem, they solve, a symptom of the real issue. And so you need to work your way down to find the real issue. And it almost feels like what you guys have done is you didn't say, well, the issue is we don't have industry here. We need to attract industry. You said, okay, we don't have industry. Why? Why? Well, because we don't have, or we didn't have a great labor force here to attract those people. And so I never imagined getting on this call today we'd have such a deep conversation about education, but it's really neat to hear that that's the special sauce. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
obviously, everybody has 100 acres of land.
Hmm.
Everybody has water and sewer, I mean, for the most part. Utilities, electric things. I mean, there are things that are so easy to identify.
Those
And
are
then,
table
okay,
stakes. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yep.
just it's so what's the next step? When I mentioned Vulcan earlier, and the team there would say that one of the deciding factors is when they walked through that facility, and again, literally the paint was drying as we were showing this facility. They saw the opportunities and they saw what we were doing, and they said, and again, it. There were several things that did we have a building? Yes, we checked that box. Well, so many other communities do that. Do we have power? Yes, we checked that back box. Yes, other communities doing it. And then when we were competing against uh, other states, obviously workforce training and things of that nature is something that everybody kind of rolls through and talks about. But when you can see it firsthand, I think that is what sealed the deal for us. And you're talking about a $40 million investment that our community made along with the assistance of our General Assembly. Well, $40 million is, again, a lot of money, just like $4 million was 25 years ago. But when you have a $1 billion announcement, I mean, the return on investment has already occurred. And so now everything else is just, okay, what's the next project? And what's the next emerging technology that we can implement in our community college system, as well as filter down into our high school curricula? And so it's meeting the needs. I had over coffee this morning, we were talking and sharing war stories of our youth about home economics, sewing, and things of that
Hmm.
nature. We talked about even in poor Northampton County, where I grew up. I mean, we had an automotive class, we had woodworking, we had metal. I mean, we had metal, we had electronics, we had plumbing, we had masonry, and we were training those trades, and for a an area that was very dependent on textiles. And so it kind of, our high schools, I mean, this is all before community college was even thought of. So, our high schools were really training individuals to go to work in these facilities. And so I think we kind of lost that in the 80s and the 90s, but we're finally directing that back. The community college obviously is taking a huge role into that, but it's filtering down into the high school curriculum today. So it's exciting to see things. What was once old is new again,
Hmm.
and so we're seeing that.
Why do you think those things went away?
Well, not to get into political. I mean, I have my own opinion. I think obviously in the mid '90s, and let me just speak for Johnston County and
Hmm.
what I saw here. In the mid '90s, we saw, and you can, whether it's NAFTA, the offshoring, or whatever you want to do, we lost a tremendous amount of the traditional manufacturing sector, textiles. Our agricultural sector changed. When I was shipped off to my relative's tobacco field, I mean, there was somebody driving the tractor, and there was 8 of us out there priming tobacco. And then you would go. It was very labor intensive. Now all of that is automated.
Hmm.
And so, you lost in Johnston County, particularly. We lost tobacco, or it changed. I shouldn't say we lost tobacco, but it was a big change. The tobacco warehouses, the marketing, all that stuff kind of changed. We lost textiles and we lost the manufacturing. And in Johnston County, we probably within a 3-year period, we lost about 8 to 10,000 jobs just in Johnston County. We had Fieldcrest Mills, Burlington Mills, Carol Edwards Tobacco Company, Champion, Eaton, um, uh, Data General. One other escapes me, but I mean, we lost a lot, and it all went to either to China or to Mexico, or, the Central America. I mean, it just lost that. Well, during that same time, if you had what I refer to as those dinner table discussions with parents and kids in 1993, 94, it's like, I'm losing my job, and you're telling your son or your daughter, you don't want to go into manufacturing because look at me, I'm having to retool and I'm having to do this. And then in the late 90s, you had the No Child Left Behind legislation that came through, where everybody needed to have a college degree. And so you just had this big wave of loss of manufacturing, this big push of you need a college degree because of No Child Left Behind. The school systems changed. We lost those trades that I spoke of, even in poor Northampton County that we had. We just, we removed those things out of the curriculum, and or at the high school level, and then now with the reshoring, I think we just kind of got caught flat-footed, and we're going back to what was old is new
Yeah.
again. And so it's 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 exciting to be a part of seeing that reemergence of manufacturing. Not the concern, or the biggest thing that I see, and I've had these conversations at my wife's shop, because young people come in, and I'm just there to, I hate to say, fatherly entertainment to them. I'm the old man that
Dad
kind of
jokes.
talks to all the kids, and I'll either, what's your plans next year? What's this or that? And I had a young man come in and strapping, good-looking fella, 6'3", and what's your plans next year? Thinking, where are you going to college next year? He says, "Oh, I'm not going to college. I'm going to be an apprentice with an electrician, and I'm going to own my own company in 3 years." And I'm like, I mean, my eyes just were wide open. The mother looked so dejected. Her head just bowed, and I'm like, "That's the smartest thing I've ever heard any young person
Yeah.
say." And she says, "Well, I don't want him to miss out on the college experience." I'm like, "Well, let me tell you something. What he just said is something that he's got a bright future ahead of him." And I shared that with one of my existing industries, and they said, "Chris, give me that kid's name. I'll hire him
Yes.
right now,
Mhm.
making $55,000 a year because that's who I want to have in my company." And again, it's just one of those things is that, we all want our kids to be successful. And again, this is not a knock against higher education. I'm very blessed to have a degree from East Carolina, just like you with App State. It's not a knock against that, but every child and every high school student doesn't need to go into some of the most successful individuals I know have never set foot on a college
Yep.
campus. I mean, they own their own companies. They've got 3 or 4 franchisees. They've got 50 to 60 people working for them. And a- again, most of the people that I know that are successful have that journeyman's, um, mentality or experience. And so, again, college education is great. And if you want to go that direction, that's fine. But to tell everybody in high school that they have to go that direction, I think is a disservice because particularly in Johnston County, we have a wide variety of our socioeconomics is very broad. We have a lot of haves and we have a lot of have-nots. And so when you have kids that are coming from broken homes, maybe wearing the same clothes that they wore yesterday, uh, and then telling them they're not going to be successful unless they go to college, that is a disservice to them because, and then that's when they start saying, "Well, I have no hope. I'm living with a relative. I don't know where I'm going to eat my next meal at." And now I'm being told that I'm not going to be successful unless I go to college. And it's my role and my philosophy is that we need to grab these kids as early as we possibly can and say, if you want to go to college, yes, we'll find a pathway, but you can find other things that are highly successful by never setting foot into college either.
Yeah, 100%. I grew up in I'm 45, so, I was high school, middle school in the 90s. Both my parents went to college and, the ideal and my dad was a landscaper, so it wasn't like he was some big city executive or anything, in the landscaping business. But the idea was, whether they said it out loud or not, you felt like, hey, if you don't go to college, get a 4-year degree, you don't have a chance. And
Right.
that was the thought back then. And again, I love education. I think it's a great thing if that's your route. And it was for me as it was for you. But I love the fact that now that, we're acknowledging the fact that, hey, you got a great chance with or without a degree. And so, love to hear you say that and the fact that
Yeah.
you guys have gone to that depth to help develop your community.
Yeah. Well, it's a team effort. I wish I could take full credit for everything, but it is a true team effort here in Johnston County. And I had a community, another county from around the Triangle visit us yesterday, and I shared the same thing. I mean, it is a true. It's not going to be solved by the Johnston County Economic Development Office. It's going to take everybody getting out of their silos, working together, and solving these things. And so it may be my role to be that face or that cheerleader for that message. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the classroom. I'm not teaching welding at JCC or the advanced manufacturing. I'm not teaching bioworks. But I know Brian and I know Danielle and I know Dr. Lindquist and I know, Brenda and I know Reno at the high school level. I know these people and we are constantly meeting. And any time that I have a a company coming into Johnston County, Yeah, I'm up there with the PowerPoint presentation, making the presentations, but then I'm starting to point to these are the people that can solve your problems.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, Chris. So if I mentioned what I do. I work with executive teams of commercial real estate companies. If I'm a developer, I want to do a big, say, multifamily, or if I want to do a mixed use development in Johnston County, why should I call you guys and consult you guys first before I just start digging?
Well, I mean, I don't delve much into the residential. That's kind of where my role stops. I mean, obviously, they've got their own organizations and stuff like that now because I do kind of work with the commercial standpoint but without the residential, you don't get the commercial. So I
Hmm.
see the value in that. But my role is hopefully that the residential will take care of itself. Along with its, when I give presentations, I talk about the six cylinders of economic development in Johnston County, and residential is one of them. Medical, small business, uh, manufacturing, travel and tourism, and then the last cylinder is agriculture. And agriculture is still our number one industry in Johnston County. And so I have an old '55 Chevrolet that's a straight six cylinder. Everything's original, and I talk about how all cylinders have to be firing and working for the engine to run. And that the gasoline and the oil that you put in it is our educational system. So that's the engine that we've created here in Johnston County. So I know the value of each of them, but I don't necessarily have to, be that piston that's running any one of them. But I try to be supportive and try to be knowledgeable about that. But to answer your question, the you know I try to work with existing property owners. First and foremost, my office doesn't own any property in Johnston County. Now, there are some communities that have a very aggressive economic development office and a very aggressive county commissioners that have purchased land that have set up their existing parks or building spec buildings and things of that nature. Philosophically, I mean, I understand that, but philosophically, our leadership has taken the approach of government should not be competing against the private sector. And so I kind of understand that and respect that. And that's the lane that I stay in. So I work with existing property owners to market their site and put as much shine on that apple as I possibly can. And the things that we do and not necessarily tell a property owner or tell a community because I have 11 municipalities in Johnston County of what they should be. I try to be a good partner and say, okay, what is the vision for your community? Or if I'm talking with a property owner, what is the vision for your land? If it's agriculture, then great. We'll bring in Bryant Spivey and we talk about, the maximizing of the agriculture sector. But if it's a jumping off point where it's been in a generational, I mean, the family farm has been in generational, nobody is farming anymore, and it's on an interstate highway or it's at an exit and it's got water and sewer and the future is, either commercial or industrial, whatever that component may be. That's when I come in and say, okay, let's do the due diligence. Let's get the phase one. Let's get the geotechnical. Let's do the environmental. Let's do all the things that whether it's commercial or industrial or residential for that matter is identifying, where there may be some pitfalls and starting the process of getting it rezoned. And that's out of a courtesy for the neighboring landowners as well, because we so many times it's just like I'm out here at the airport, whether it's RDU or whether it's down at the Raleigh Executive Jetport in Lee County. Everybody knows there's an airport next door. So when you build a house underneath that flight path, it's kind of, or next to a railroad yard, it's kind
Yeah,
of tough to argue that you're going to complain, complain about the air traffic knowing that it's there.
yeah.
So the same thing goes with light industrial zoning or whatever commercial zoning or business zoning is that everybody kind of understands that this is, and that's working with our planning and zoning office, not only with the county, but with our 11 municipalities to kind of set forth a path and put a flag down so that everybody kind of knows and everybody can plan for future development or or so forth. So that's kind of my role, is to be that conduit or work with property owners in conjunction with our municipalities or our county to set that vision for that site and plan for the future. And because they're not making land anymore,
That's
and
right.
there's appropriate places for residential, there's appropriate places for commercial, and there's appropriate places for industrial. And so it's just working with all of our partners and our allies to make sure that we put our best foot forward. And so, to answer your question, I welcome any opportunity for any investor. I get calls that, particularly from out of state, they're looking for that deal, and I say, unfortunately, that deal was 10 years ago. And so there's no inexpensive land in Johnston County. Prior to COVID, I could have shown you dozens of sites that would have been quote unquote a deal at today by today's standard. But back then, people were like, oh, I just can't understand why somebody's asking $20,000 an acre. Well, now you've got to put a one in front of it, and so
Yes.
it's exciting time. It's kind of uh, it's I still have that wow factor when I hear some of the land
Yeah.
prices, but, when you're competing across the United States, it's and particularly for when I refer to as Northeast money, coming down, it's a deal to them. So,
Yeah. Well, regarding that Northeast money coming down, I always talk about kind of a calling card at this point, but I believe we're in a gold rush in the Carolinas right now.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I always say 30 years from now, we're going to be old guys telling these young guys about how the 2020s were the golden days. So what's your take on that? And we'll close with
Yeah.
that, Chris.
No, well, and I'm going to borrow this from one of my colleagues. I can't remember if it was Michael Smith over in Chatham County or Jimmy Randolph down in Lee or somebody else around the triangle. But I remember them, or Todd Tucker. I think Todd may have said it. Somebody said it in a conference that we were all together as Triangle RTRP members, is that this is kind of the decade of the triangle. Meaning, you think about Austin or Atlanta maybe first, Austin, Nashville region, and then, how those, maybe Atlanta in the 80s and 90s, or Austin in the 90s, and then Nashville, coming up behind. Now it's kind of the Raleigh market. And so I trace that all back to, wonderful quality of life, four seasons, the fact that we have, particularly in the Triangle, we have three major research universities in Duke State, Carolina, but now that we've got East Carolina and Charlotte as a tier one research university, I mean, that's attracting a lot of talent from around the globe. And then once they get here, they realize the wonderful quality of life. We still have a lower cost of living than many of the communities that we compete against. And so, and then we're 2 miles from, I mean, 2 hours to the ocean and 2.5 hours to the mountains. And we've got a world champion soccer. World champion hockey
Yeah.
now, and who knows about the baseball? But we've got all those amenities that other regions have long had here, and so it's exciting for what the future holds for the Triangle.
You brought up baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan, and you don't have to. If you know anything, you don't have to reveal it here. But if you had to wager your, $1,000 on it, what's your likelihood that baseball comes to the Triangle?
I think it's going to eventually happen. I don't know if it's going to be during my tenure as economic developer. One of the things that kind of dinged us in the past with professional sports is the lack of headquarters. My personal opinion is that, but there's a lot of people that are making bigger bets than, and when they're billionaires, they know a lot more than I do. The thing is that do we have the capacity at the headquarter level to support professional athletes? Because with these professional athletes comes a lot of corporate money, and
Hmm.
we have that space. I think it's eventually getting there, But it's one of those things is that I don't want to cannibalize a good hockey program based on baseball, but I like the Boys of Summer as well. So, I mean, I played baseball growing up. And so, but does that come at the expense of the Durham Bulls or the Wilson Warbirds or what we have down in Fayetteville? And so, um, do we have the capacity to support all of those things? Eventually, maybe yes. I don't know if it's going to be within the next 5 years, but who knows?
Yeah, they're making a push, and I have heard a lot of people talk about how that impacts the Durham Bulls. I mean, probably the most iconic minor league team in history. So
Yeah,
it's a legitimate consideration.
yeah. And does it come at expense of? I mean, eh, the pie has to get built bigger. Right now we only have one size of a pie, and it gets sliced up so many ways. And so you make that bigger pie, then it's tough. So that's just my personal opinion. I have no inside baseball. I have no inside baseball knowledge whatsoever. So that's just
Pun
Chris.
intended.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's got an opinion. I just shared mine. So
That's right.
my father would say that and 50 cent won't buy you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So take it for what it's worth.
It certainly will not buy you a cup of coffee. Won't even buy you the cup.
Yeah.
So, well, Chris, I appreciate anything to add about you or Johnson County before we go.
No, I mean I'm very blessed to live in a community that is growing and has provided me and my family the opportunity um, to be what we are. All my roots and everything that I do, I can trace back to small business. And so, whether you're a small business with a $500,000 in sales with 5 employees, or a large corporation with a $500 million in sales and 500 employees, at the end of the day, the same sleepless nights for a CFO with a small business owner are the same. And so I think rising tides floats all boats. And if we can grow a community in the right way, then everybody's going to be successful, whether it's the corporate level or the small business level.
Amen to that, Chris. I appreciate it, and look forward to keeping in touch.
All right, we need to make a little side bet on this future Appalachian State
All right.
ECU game, but we'll have to. I've got a jar of apple shine here, Johnston County's favorites from Broad Slab. So I always have that available for any kind of little side bets that we want to have on.
I'll have to get some moonshine, some undistilled stuff from the hollers up
Well,
outside of Boone.
this is taxed, so I want to make sure that this goes on the record that this is taxed by so it's not anything illegal. So
Yeah, so is
now
ours.
we can do some barbecue. So
There we go. All right, East versus West. Civil War.
I'm going with the vinegar base, so I'll let you have whatever else is this mustard, tomato base, whatever you want to bring to the table. We'll argue over it.
Well, we really got to keep this App State ECU thing going. Actually, I can't say anything, but I'm hopeful. So,
yeah. Well,
anyway,
it's going to be up in the air, so it'll be a good football game, that's for sure. So
yeah, we'll see what we get, man. Well, maybe we'll get together, Chris, and I look forward to talking to you then, buddy.
my door's always open. Thank you very much for the time.
All right, see you, sir.
Take care.